Okay, so Yachimo, greetings. I'm Odwirafo Kwesi Ranehmbata Akan, Odwirafo of Akwamu Maruka, Etifimudi Akwamu Nation in North America within Ojiraman, the purified nation, Afurakani, Afurite Kaini people, African Black people in the Western Hemisphere. Also the founder of HOODOO Soulosophy, the Hearth Shrine of Akan Ancestral Religion in North America, the HOODOO quote unquote shrine house or temple in North America. So I just wanted to get on here and talk a little bit about the philosophy. We call it soulosophy. You know, philosophy is the love and wisdom and so forth. We'll say soulosophy. We're talking about the cosmology of hoodoo, which of course is an expression of ancient, authentic Akan ancestral religion. And Akan people, as we have proven, were forced into North America during the Musuo Kessier, the Great Perversity, the enslavement era. We continued our Akan ancestral religion under the Akan term Undu. It's hoodoo, meaning roots, medicine from roots, trees, and plant life. Undu also means to become heavy with the spirit possession, spirit communication. Undu also means to feel a presentiment or foreboding, seeing what's folding in the spirit realm ahead of time so you can make ritual adjustments to align your thoughts, intentions, and actions with order and so forth. So Akan people preserved Undu as hoodoo in North America. So the entire pantheon of Akan, Abosom deities, as well as Akan Nsamanfo ancestresses and ancestors were preserved intact. So of course we did we did a documentary film on the hoodoo tradition. Previous to that, we did a documentary film inclusive of hoodoo, but we also talked about the juju tradition and voodoo tradition and Ngangan tradition and the Wanga tradition in North America. But we did our first film specifically on hoodoo, and you can see that right here on the channel. Okay, so when you go on our channel, you go to the documentary film page, you'll see the hoodoo film, as well as the Amarukafo Adibisa African American Ancestral Divination film. So that was one we did a few years back. And then we did the hoodoo film 2 years ago in October. Now, what we are doing right now is we're raising funds for the second hoodoo film. The hoodoo film is actually part of a trilogy. And let me show you the page before we get started so you can see what we're dealing with. We're working to finish the second part of this hoodoo film trilogy this October. We released the first hoodoo film 2 years ago in October, Hoodoo Akan Ancestral Religion in North America. We're working, and we've dealt with identity and cosmology of hoodoo. The second film we are working to complete, and we want to complete it this October, and it's dealing with hoodoo ritual. So, and you will see on this page, this is our fundraiser page, so if you'd like to contribute, please do so. Our goal is to finish the film by the 11th annual Hoodoo Mine Hoodoo Nation Festival. We have a yearly festival dealing with hoodoo, the Akan Ancestral Religion in North America, showing authentic hoodoo rooted in Akan Ancestral Religion. So we normally have vendors and presenters and so forth, and it's an afternoon and so forth. We want to screen, or actually pre-screen, the new hoodoo film. On that day is October 18th, so we'll be a pre-screening for all of you who contribute, whether you come, out in person to the film, you have access to that for free, the screening for free, as well as the discussion and access to the vendors and the vegan food and everything else. But if you're not able to attend in person, we will have a private, link live streaming so you can watch the film that way and you can, tune in. So either way, we're working to finish that on our 11th annual Hoodoo Mine Hoodoo Nation Festival, October 18th, coming up in a couple of months. So if you can contribute to our fundraiser, our crowdfund, we appreciate that. We have some more places to travel to complete the filming by the end of August, beginning of September, then complete the post-production. Of course, the post-production is the editing that takes weeks and weeks and so forth. So we want to complete that by the, beginning of October, but at least by the first week in October. So I will put the link to that, and then we can get into this cosmology. Okay, so that's it. So that's the fundraiser page, Hoodoo Film on the fundraiser.com platform. Yet I say to those who have contributed over the past week or so, but we are working to complete the film. So please do so. Now let's get into this Hoodoo Soulosophy, this Hoodoo Cosmology, the cosmology of Hoodoo rooted in Akan Ancestral Religion. So let's go back to that. I want to show you the reason why we put up these images of these sacred symbols and so forth, so you can understand what we are getting at. All right. So what you see on the screen, the symbol on the top, the one in the middle is the Wawa Aba symbol, the adinkra symbol in Akan culture. There are hundreds of adinkra symbols in Akan culture, and they encode the culture, the philosophy, the cosmology, the spiritual practice, the nature and function of the divinities, the abosom, the forces in nature, the wisdom of our nananon unsama for our spiritually cultivated ancestresses and ancestors. It is a database, so to speak, for the entire culture, pictorial, symbolic database for the entire culture. They're also used as matrices of energy, used as, asumain or talismans, drawn on clothes, on shrines, and so forth to draw in the energy of specific forces in nature, or, ancestral spirits and so forth. So the one on the top is Wawa, Aba, the seed of the Wawa tree. And the second one, the one on the bottom in the middle, is the Aya, which is the fern, and so forth. So, and they're ebe, or proverbial wisdom associated with all of the hundreds of symbols. The root symbols that you find in Akan culture, the adinkra symbols, are also, of course, found as Medut Toro, hieroglyphs in ancient Kemet, because the Akan people come directly from ancient Khanid and Kemet. Nubian Egypt migrated to the western part of the continent after the invasions of the Greeks and Romans and Arabs and so forth hundreds of years ago in Kemet. We migrated west. Some of us stayed, and some of us migrated west. Reestablished the empire of Akana, or Ghana, the Khan or Khanit, Nubian Empire. Then some of us, because of Muslim invasions in the ancient empire of Ghana, over 1,000 years ago, we started migrating further south towards the forest belt, where the regions of Cote d'Ivoire, Ivory Coast, and the Republic of Ghana are today. And then hundreds of years after those migrations, some of us were taken from there and forced into North America during the Musuwakesie, which means the great perversity, the enslavement era. And this is how Akan people ended up in North America, continuing Akan ancestral religion and maintaining these adinkra symbols. So, for example, show you one of those examples of maintaining the culture. We put this on the front page of our book. So I'll show you the front page of one of our books first. Okay, first I'll show you the Hoodoo People book. So I've published 31 books today for those who are actually 32 now, 32 books today for those who are unaware. You can download the ebook versions of the 32 books for free from our, 31 of them from our website. But we'll get into that a little bit later. This is one of the books. So we have books on various topics. Some of them are on the Hoodoo tradition. This is one of the ones, the first ones we published on the Hoodoo tradition, called Hoodoo People. You see Nana Abena Araminta Harriet Tubman. You see the, symbolism from ancient Khanid and Kemet, the Akan royalty and so forth, the wars we waged during enslavement in North America to free ourselves, and Nana Abena Araminta and so forth. And in part of this, we're showing the proof that the term hoodoo comes from the Akan term undu, medicine from roots, trees, plant life, and also showing that undu, hoodoo, and Akan has the exact same meaning in the Medut and Toro, the language, hieroglyphs of ancient Kemet. So we show that connection. But with regard to these sacred symbols, we show some of the sacred symbolism of the Akan culture, the adinkra symbols, and then we show that they have, connection in ancient Khanid and Kemet. But if you look at that, for example, this is one of the symbols found, in some hoodoo archaeology and so forth. And this is the same ancient adinkra, Akan symbol and so forth. But let me show you another image. Now, our Hoodoo Mayan Hoodoo Nation Festival, we, that's, every year, yearly, this will be the 11th one coming up. The first 3 years, we published a journal. For, each festival, each year we published a journal. We made it a free journal. The ebook version is a free download, so you can download it at any time, just like all the other 30 books and so forth. We gave a copy out to everyone who came to the event, so our events are free. Then we gave a free copy of the book to everyone who attended. Of course, they're open to Afura, Akani, Afra, Kaitni people, African Black people exclusively. But the first 3 years we published a journal, and it has articles on different aspects of the Hoodoo tradition and so forth. Now, one thing I just want to show you just to bring this full circle with regard to adinkra symbols. Of course, in Akan culture, when you see Kente cloth, these patterns, this is specific to Akan culture. And you'll see some Ewe people who have adopted certain aspects of this, but it was created by Akan people. So the Kente cloth, when you see these kinds of patterns, it comes specifically from the Akan people of Ghana and Ivory Coast. The different colors, each one has a spiritual significance associated to specific abosom, specific deities and ancestral clans. The different patterns and color patterns and so forth all have specific names and specific ebe or proverbs associated with them. So we showed the parallel. When we were forced into North America, we didn't have the weaving process where we traditionally would weave the Kente cloth, and Kente means basket. It shows the weaving that looks like a basket and so forth. But we used strips of fabric and recreated the Kente patterns when our people, our grandmothers and great-grandmothers were making quilts. We would take the strips of cloth and use the strip, instead of strip weaving, it was strip sewing, but we replicated the Kente patterns and the associations with that. You will find that, for example, these different patterns, they weren't just colorful patterns. We would be creating maps with the strips and the patterns to show how to escape from the plantations. So there are a number of different things that were coded in these symbols. So we showed the connection between the Akan Kente and the Hoodoo Kente. This is an Abosomfo, an Akan priest who's possessed by a spirit. That's why they put the white shirel powder on him to show that he's possessed. He has the Nwara, which are the quote-unquote cockle shells, the seashells around his neck, because they have ritual significance, especially with regard to divination. Then we show here, in the Hoodoo tradition, we use cockle shells or seashells for divination, including casting them in the water to engage in the divinatory practice, and we talked about that there. So once again, that's a preservation of the ritual context of using the Nwara, as they're called in Akan, seashells, as well as in the Akan tradition, in the Hoodoo tradition in North America, we use the seashells for adebisa or divination. Sankofa is one of the many adinkra symbols, sacred symbols. You'll also find that sacred symbol in ancient Kemet as well, and I'll show you that in a second. But when you look closely, this is the Sankofa symbol in the wrought iron gates. This symbol is from Washington, D.C. You'll see wherever Black people, and specifically Akan people, were enslaved in North America, you will find in the wrought iron gate artwork, you'll find the various hundreds of adinkra symbols. whether you're in Louisiana, North Carolina, or Georgia, or Florida, Virginia, even when you find Akan people who were forced into Jamaica, Suriname, the islands and so forth, wherever we were forced during enslavement to, engage in ironworks and wrought iron and so forth, we would carve these adinkra symbols in the gates to show that we were there and preserving our culture. Now, so we never stop utilizing, we utilize them for, not only art, but these are the same as sigils that you would hear Europeans use that terminology. We use these sacred symbols as magnetic matrices to draw in specific abosom that govern our ancestral clans and so forth, to engage in spirit possession, spirit communication, divination, and so forth. Now, let me give you one more example. This right here, hold on one second. I just want to show you the front cover of one of our books that goes into a little bit more detail about that. All right. We show the adinkra symbol in the middle, Kofa, the same symbol in the gate in North America, the Kofa symbol. And then you'll see this is an image of, matter of fact, let me give you a better image of that right quick. That same symbol you will find in ancient Kemet. That is a symbol of Het Heru. And in our most recent book, we include this entire book as part of the anthology, so you can see the whole piece. So let me give you that right quick. And this book, Sankofa, Tahuti, Fa, and Ifa, we're showing that the deity Tahuti in Akan, in ancient Khanid Kemet, is the same divinity, Sankofa and Akan, and Fa and Vodun and Ifa and Yoruba and Afa and Igbo and so forth, same divinity. So we will show you, this is our most recent book, 600 pages, anthology of 12 of our 31 books, all in one volume. This particular book, Tahuti, Sankofa, Fa, and Ifa, we're showing that the wisdom divinity of divine wisdom and divination in ancient Khanid and Kemet, one of his titles in ancient Kemet is Fang. That's why he's called Fa in Vodun and Ifa in Yoruba and Afa in Igbo and Sankofa in Akan and so forth. So we go through the etymology of that, the linguistics of it, the cosmology of the different ethnic groups to prove that. But we also, just so you can see, for the purposes of tonight, you see on the front cover, we have from ancient Khanid and Kemet, the symbol of Het Heru, the same Sankofa symbol. So let's get down to that. So we proved that this symbol Sankofa didn't just originate in the western part of Afuraka in the region of Ghana and Ivory Coast with the Akan people just recently. It is literally the symbol of the face of Het Heru. And cosmologically, that's what Sankofa is. Het Heru, the goddess of love and sensuality, creativity, art, music, dance, sensuality, the fusion of complementary opposites and a harmonious fusion and so forth, marriage. She's called Oshun in Yoruba. She's Het Heru in ancient Kemet. She's Cheche in Akan, also Afia, Afu in Akan and so forth. She governs the planet Afi, so-called Venus. Now, of course, the whites in offspring call her Venus and Aphrodite, but they corrupted that. Her sacred symbolism is Animal totem is the cow, Ka'et. So you'll see sometimes she has cow's ears. She governs the vulva and so forth, and the fallopian tubes as well. You will see that little cow's face. So you see her face with the cow's ears. You see the cow here, and literally the cow's face is literally the fallopian tube structure. The het, Heru, is the house het of Heru, the sacred spiritual falcon. Those are the fallopian tubes. The het, the house within which the little sacred spirit, the egg, will be passing through or released into and so forth. So that is the Sankofa symbol. That is Het Heru. She is sitting inside of the womb of the Afurai Kagyan African woman and so forth. The cow's face is in the womb. Now, of course, the ancient statuary going to pre-dynastic Kemet, 7,000 years ago, you'll see it's the same symbolism here. But then we get into the fallopian tubes are also two Sankofa birds grabbing the egg and so forth. So we go into some detail about that. But you see that symbolism in Akan culture. This is an Akan shrine in the Asante region. But we also show here that same symbolism with the exact same meaning in ancient Kani and Kemet has the same meaning in Akan and the same meaning in North America in the hoodoo tradition. So many people will walk down the street. You can go to any city in America where Black people were enslaved. We were enslaved in New York in the 1700s and so forth. That's where one of the first quote unquote slave revolts happened and so forth. New York, Washington, D.C., Maryland, Virginia, North Carolina, South Carolina, Georgia, Florida, Mississippi, Alabama, Louisiana, Texas, and so forth. Wherever we were, even early California and so forth, you go to California now, older buildings and so forth, when you see the wrought iron works, all of the various hundreds of adinkra symbols, Sankofa is very prominent. Akan symbolism, we were imprinting our culture to show that we were there. What's important is most people see those symbols and they just think it's artwork, but it's actually Akan religion. It is hoodoo. So just want to point that out to prove that. Of course, you can read through the book and you will see, the details. And just let me put that link up real quick, just so you can see it. I will put this link in the chat room right quick. And then we'll get into this cosmology. Okay, so you'll see that I just released the new book a few months ago, 600-page book, 8.5 by 11. All right, so that is the Nhoma, the Odwirafo True Historical Anthology book. You can get that directly on our website on the Nhoma page. That's the link right there. We just released that. We took 12 of our books. We have published 31 books over the past 25 years. Actually, this December, the very first book I published, Ubin Shang, The Ancestral Summons, which is part of that. I published that this December, will make the 28th year. So over the past 28 years, I published 31 books. We took 12 of them that focus on true historical information and cosmology and culture and linguistics and so forth. And we put them all together in one volume. We recently updated and expanded the information. So there are new editions of all of those 12 books, including new information that we gathered when we recently went back to ancient Khanid and Kemet, Nubia and Egypt, and incorporated more primary source information into the text and so forth, more linguistic information. So 12 of our books, 12 of the 31 are all in that 600-page volume, 8.5 by 11 full color and so forth. So the book we just showed you, the Sankofa book with Tahuti and so forth, is one of the books that's included in that. All right. Now, all right, let's get into this cosmology. Now, the reason we did this broadcast tonight, show you the symbolism once again. Now that you have a better understanding. So the Wawa Aba symbol right here in the middle is one more adinkra symbol in Akan culture. The Aya symbol, one on the bottom in the middle, that's another adinkra symbol. There are proverbs. Some of you saw, and if you're on our list, you know I posted some information over the past couple of days dealing with a specific issue that we were working through over the past couple of years. And some of you know about, if you look on this channel, we ended up doing a 13-part series on called When a Woman Stalks a Man. And let me just show you that once again if you haven't seen that. So I detail the information about having been stalked by a mentally ill woman for the past 7 years. And the past 4 years, it's been in the court system. I've been before a judge over 25 times over the past 4 years in civil court and criminal court. This individual happens to be very litigious. So she has filed thousands of pages of documents that ended up, going into the appellate court and Supreme Court and so forth. And it's all nonsensical, but this is what happens when people are mentally ill, and this is what they deal with. So I've been before a judge over 25 times. She's been incarcerated 4 times. She fled the state. I had to deal with the Kansas Bureau of Investigation to find her in Kansas and have her extradited back to Washington, D.C. to face criminal charges and so forth. That just happened in April. That's one of the more recent iterations of this. And this is on our channel as well, so you will see this on the channel. You can watch the entire 13-part series. Okay, so we did the video. It's like over 4 hours, so we broke it up into 13 segments. Like the first segment is 10 minutes. The second part is, 15 or something like that. But we show all the court orders, the documents, and all this other stuff. It's called When a Woman Stalks a Man, Legal System, Mental Illness, Spirit Children, and Hoodoo, because she started incorporating all the stuff we talk about with hoodoo and trying to, incorporate that into her delusion. So it's crazy. So we posted some information about that and how very recently it impacted us, myself, in a certain way legally that we had to fight through. Now, of course, she's been incarcerated 4 times. She is in a psychiatric hospital right now. She went from jail to the psychiatric hospital a few months ago. She was found incompetent to stand trial, and they're working on competency restoration. We have another hearing next week, which will be like the 27th hearing over the past few years, to see whether or not she's going to be civilly committed or restores her competency and can stand trial for the 8 new criminal counts that she, received. If she's found to restore her competency, then, she'll go to trial. She will, of course, be found guilty, and she'll be in jail for the next couple of years. If not, then she'll be committed on a civil commitment basis at the psychiatric hospital, probably for a year or 2 and so forth, and things will move on. So we were talking about adversity, and I posted something online talking about what we have gone through recently, where this case kind of caused some other problems. So, but I just wanted to let people know, how do we approach adversity in our ancestral culture? You'll hear about the way Christians, when they're talking about the fictional character Jesus, approach adversity, or Muslims when they're talking about the fictional character Allah or Muhammad. Of course, in our book, Kuku Tuntum, which is part of our large 600-page volume, we show that Muhammad and Jesus and Buddha and Brahman and Abraham, Isaac, Ishmael, Solomon, Sheba, Menelik, all of these characters are fictional, never existed of any form or any race. And we expose how they were manufactured, stolen from titles of deities of ancient Kemet. So, but we know how people will say, they use even the pseudo religion as a basis to, quote unquote, overcome anxiety or develop a philosophy behind that and all of that. When we're practicing authentic ancestral religion, what is our approach? We've had these sound approaches for tens of thousands of years, and it's rooted and encoded in our spiritual and cultural philosophy. So The adinkra symbolism, as we said, is like encyclopedic knowledge of the culture. And we put forward 2 of them to show people exactly how we overcome adversity. So I did 2 posts on Facebook in relation to that. I'm going to show you those, and then I'm going to go into the philosophy. So let's look at the 2 posts. The first one focuses on the Wawa Aba adinkra symbol, the one in the middle on the top here. And in fact, let me give you the direct translation of that first, and then we'll switch over back to the cosmological part. But if you go on any website for adinkra symbols, you'll find some basic, information. You'll find the name of the symbol. This is Wawa, Aba, the name of the symbol, the seed or the fruit, but the seed, Aba, of the Wawa tree. They'll show you how to pronounce it, the meaning and philosophical significance of Wawa Aba, the seed of the Wawa tree, symbol of hardiness, toughness, and perseverance, and so forth. Seed of the Wawa. So you'll see on adinkra symbol pages that they have these different things. Now, let's go into some more detail to show you the deeper significance of it. And we'll tie it back to our ancient culture as well. So this is the first post I made, just so people could see. So I just let people, gave people some insight into one, how that particular case led to some other challenges, which typically we don't talk about that kind of thing on my page. I never talk about challenges. I've been on social media for 15 years or whatever. You don't hear me talking about personal issues or anything like that. But since this could benefit the community to see how we approach these things, I decided to share something personal. Otherwise I wouldn't do that. But just to show how we approach these things in life. So this is what we say. We said there's a reason why there are mbe proverbs in ancestral religion connected to the abosom deities, addressing resilience, which the Wawa Aba does. Hold on a second, hide that. All right. Addressing resilience, overcoming obstacles and adversity. It is because life will present situations which can be perceived as obstacles, yet with wisdom, we learn to overcome the perceived obstacles with resilience and without creating disorder in the process. Ancestral religion, authentic spirituality does not remove obstacles from life, just as ancestral religion does not remove the possibility of physical illness from life. Ancestral religion, in the true sense, guides you to overcome obstacles holistically, just as you learn to overcome health issues with a holistic approach. Now, that's important because sometimes people, and it's based on our misguided conditioning, but if you've already been corrupted, and we've been raised corrupted to believe that there's a fictional cartoon character named Jesus, Yeshua, Yahushua, or Yahweh, or whatever title you want to use, or Yahweh, or Yahweh, or Allah, or whatever. These are fictional characters, but we've been conditioned to believe they exist, and the fraudulent books that are put forward by them. So we've been conditioned to do that. And then some of our people wake up, get back in tune with true ancestral religion, the origin of all the fake pseudo religions like Christianity, Islam, Judaism, Hinduism, Buddhism, Taoism. All of these are fragmented corruptions by the whites and their offspring of taking different texts from ancient Kemet, corrupting them, putting white personages in place, and trying to present that corruption as a new tradition that was revealed to them by a fake deity. But we've been corrupted to believe that, so we're getting on our knees and praying to a fictional white character who never existed. We're named after the whites and their offspring. We're naming our children after them, and so forth. Even when some of us think that we're revolutionary by blackening up the Jesus character and saying Jesus was a black Hebrew. Of course, the Hebrews never existed. We've proven that in our courses. Blackening up Jesus is like blackening up Santa Claus. That doesn't make him real. That just makes it even more ridiculous. So, but some of us go along with that. So if something happens in life, we'll pray to the fictional character and put our faith in the fictional character. And if things go well, we'll say, see, that's because we pray to the fictional character. And if things don't go well, we'll say, well, he's just testing us. He's not going to give you more than you can handle. All kinds of rationalizations about why things are not working out. But if things do work out, all attribution is to the fake deity. When they don't work out, God works in mysterious ways. Nonsense, but this is what we've been, corrupted with. Some of our people wake up from that. We reject the fake religions. We get back involved in our ancestral culture, get back in harmony with divine order, the order in creation and nature and so forth. This is what ancestral religion is dealing with. The great mother and great father, supreme being, work together as two halves of a divine whole that we align ourselves with. We are cells within the great divine body of the great mother and great father, supreme being, just like all the cells in your body are children of their parent organs. And when they serve their parent organs, then they're serving you, the great being, at the same time. We as Black people, we are cells of specific organs within the great divine body of the supreme being. And when we align ourselves harmoniously based on our function and creation, then we're serving the great being that we are a component part of. If we get out of alignment, then we engage the ritual process to get back in alignment. Just like physically, if you get, your cells move in a different direction and you get some herbs and realign them and so forth, then they get back in harmony with the flow of the entire body of creation and so forth. So that being said, sometimes our people were still conditioned. They're like, oh, you practice African religion now. Well, why did you encounter a problem in life? You should never have any of the problems. That's never been true. That's absurd. Now, we wouldn't say that to them. Oh, you practice that fake religion. Why are you having problems? Jesus should solve all your problems, even though they pretend like that's what happens. But that's a way for them to try to say, well, your ancestral religion is not valid, because if it was, you shouldn't have any problems. If you're spiritual, you shouldn't have any issues. That's a Eurocentric, idiotic view that they learned from the whites and their offspring. So this is why we go into the adinkra symbolism, which is thousands of years old, and they have proverbs or ebe talking about overcoming adversity. Why would we have proverbial wisdom talking about overcoming adversity and our approach to overcoming adversity? Because life will present, quote unquote, perceived obstacles. That's just what happens. Just like fish swimming upstream and they may run into some obstacle, they have to move around. It's not that the reason they're coming in contact with an obstacle because they're not living the proper fish life and they need to turn themselves over to Christ so they can never have obstacles again. That's absurd. Living in creation, there will things will come forward that will be perceived obstacles that are coming to your path. And when you engage in ancestral religion and culture, you live in harmony with divine order. And you learn how to realign yourself with order if you fall off track. So it's not that obstacles won't present themselves. Through ancestral religion, you learn how to holistically realign yourself with order to overcome any perceived obstacles in a holistic way. Just like, for example, if you're practicing allopathic medicine, Eurocentric, then if a woman, like many of our sisters, are diagnosed with, uterine fibroids and so forth, well, in this culture, it's misogynistic, it's racist, so they will try to say, well, you need a hysterectomy. That's their first, diagnosis for the Black women. We're going to have to remove your uterus. And many of them go through that and suffer and have all kinds of problems. But then some say, you know what, I'm going to go back to our ancestral culture. I'm going to go back to our approach, a homeopathic approach to medicine, and find a holistic approach. And they connect with people who are practicing hoodoo or juju or voodoo and gangan or wanga or whatever, and they know traditional approaches to healing. And instead of having the uterus removed, they take certain herbs and so forth and change their lifestyle, and they shrink the fibroids and they pass out of the body, never to return, because they went back to a holistic approach to dealing with the issue instead of the self-destructive approach put forward by Eurocentrism. The same is true in ancestral religion and culture with regard to any obstacle in life. Ancestral religion will put you on the path to address any perceived obstacle in a harmonious way, in harmony with divine order, as opposed to a self-destructive way. So it doesn't mean that obstacles won't come to you. You will come in contact with things that appear to be blocks and so forth. Through ancestral religious practice, we can overcome any perceived obstacle in harmony with Inyamewa, Inyame, and Sheshe, which is the Akan term for the Great Mother and Great Father, goddesses, and God's divine arrangement or order. So the proof of that is there's a reason why we have adinkra symbols for thousands of years that have ebe or proverbs associated with overcoming adversity. So we said in our article, the bosom, the goddess Abba, called Nekabet and Kemet. We showed the adinkra symbol Wawa Abba. What is the ebe or proverb associated with Wawa Abba? Oye den se Wawa Abba. Oye, he is dan, hard, say, as Wawa Abba, the seed of the Wawa tree, or she is tough is the seed of the Wawa tree. Dane means tough, Dane means hard, but it also has to do with health. So Ahua Dane means the self, Ahun is Edane is hard. That means you have a hard body. A hard body is considered a healthy body, like a tree is hard and so forth. Your muscles are hard. If you have a hard Edane, Ehun body, then you're considered healthy. So the word Ahua Dane means body hard, literally, or hard body, but it's a euphemism for someone is strong, meaning they're healthy, they're in good health. So, oh yeah, Dane, he is or she is, Dane, hard or tough or strong, say, as Wawa Abba, the seed of the Wawa tree. So it's talking about resilience, it is talking about perseverance and so forth. Let me scroll down a little bit. Okay, so it's talking about resilience. It's talking about overcoming adversity. You know, all of that, overcoming obstacles and so forth, because of how strong the seed of the Wawa tree is. And in Akan culture, when you look at the Wawa tree and how strong that tree is and so forth, and someone to be likened to that, they're like, okay, this individual can overcome anything. But this is in our nature. It's not talking about one individual. It's talking about an aspect of your spiritual anatomy that shows that you have that capacity and responsibility to manifest those characteristics because it's part of who you actually are. Now, let's show the cosmology of that. To prove it in two separate ways. And we'll show the cosmology of it in the language and culture of ancient Khanidi Kemet and show how it's the same as an Akan culture as well. Now, in our article, we mentioned this is where the symbol, we showed the symbol and so forth. But before I show you that, I want to show you something else. Okay, in Akan culture, we have soul names or day names, Kradin or Dadin. Day of the week we're born on shows what divinity governs our spiritual head, and that divinity's energy governs us. And we are sent into the world on the day governed by that divinity to let the community know we are a child of this deity and we bring this deity's energy into the community. We're a child of son or daughter of this divinity. That spiritual force governs our head and so forth. So the 7-day week is governed by the solar, lunar, and planetary bodies, and there are male and female deities that animate the sun, the moon, and different planets. So when we're sent into the world on a certain day, we carry the energy of the spirit that animates that solar, lunar, and planetary orb. So if you're born on Sunday, like I was, the divinity is Awusi or Asi. He's called Asar in ancient Kemet or Asir. He's called Awusi or Asi or Asir in Akan. When he's operating with Ra, he's operating through the sun on Sunday, carries the energy of that solar energy. So I'm considered qua Asi, or qua, a subject of the divinity Asi. Qua Asi is Kwesi. That's the soul name and so forth. A woman born on Friday, or Fida, the day of Afi, the goddess Hetheru, or Afi, or Afua. She's called Afia or Afua. She carries that goddess's energy into the world and so forth. So, but as you can see here, they don't only govern the 7 days of the week in the solar, lunar, and planetary bodies. They also govern the 11 major body systems. And we list those out. They're part of our spiritual anatomy. Every organ and organ systems in our body are governed by one of these major divinities. We're talking about Black people exclusively. So each one of them are part of, they have shrines in our body, centers of resonance within our body. One of them you're more prominently aligned with, even though all of them, you have shrines for all of them, centers of resonance for them to communicate through. So while you may be born on a Sunday and carry the energy of the solar fire and so forth, you have a fiery personality and also radiant and so forth, it doesn't mean that you're not connected to the other ones, but you have that one more in prominence. If you're a child of Afi, Afia, Friday, planet Afia, so-called Venus, the goddess Heteru, you carry that central, artistic, creative, innovative energy into the community and so forth. You still have shrines for the other deities in your spiritual anatomy. You're more prominently associated with this one. So you carry this energy into the world. That's the one that dominates your spiritual disposition. So all of them are connected to us. So when we talk about Abba, and we talk about the, adinkra symbol, it's not just a specific happenstance or circumstance that you can draw on that energy. It's literally a part of who you are as a Black person. Now we said Wawa Abba. That's an Akan. Well, this goddess, she's called Abba in Akan. She is Nekabet in ancient Kemet. So now we know that the adinkra symbol actually is the name of a deity, a goddess. It's not just a symbol with a, proverbial wisdom. It actually carries the energy of the goddess Abba. So Abba does mean fruit or seed or pod and so forth, but first and foremost, it's the name of a force in nature. She's actually the one, in fact, let's just look at the article. She is Nekabet in ancient Kemet. She is Oba in Yoruba, Ayaba in Vodun, and Abba in Akan. We always show the cross-cultural connection to show the same goddess shows up in every Black Afro-Akani culture according to their language and so forth. So she's a spiritual force on the feminine side that animates the planet Abba, which the white star offspring called Neptune. Her day is Abada, or Thursday. She is referred to as a guardian, a striker, perpetually striking against disorder. That's the kind of energy complex she has. She is the Abosom, the divinity of resistance and punishment, punishing those who engage in disorder. She's a protectress of royal sovereignty, along with her twin sister Ya. They govern the divine magnetosphere, the governmental structure preserving stability within creation, the magnetosphere surrounding Earth and so forth. So we say she's Abba in Akan. The Yoruba people in Nigeria, they call her Oba. The Ewe people in Togo and Benin, they call her Ayaba. As you can see, the names are related. She's called Nekabet in ancient Knesset and Kemet, Nubian, Egypt, and so forth. One of the praise names of Abba in the Akan tradition is Ba. And then you see the words Abba and Ba in the language of the Akan have the following meanings. Abba means stick or cudgel for beating a blow or stroke. Ba means to extend, to spread out. So that's what it means in Akan, just the general meaning of the name Ba or Abba or Baba and so forth. That's interesting. It means that in the Akan language, because when you look in the hieroglyphs of ancient Kemet, you see that it has the exact same meanings. A stick, a scepter, a staff, a stick, Abba, and we show them it due to the hieroglyphs here. Aba, to open, to push away into, to open up. Also to resist, to revolt against. Clubs, maces, cudgels, to kill, to slay, to wield a battle axe in a fight. So whether sticks or staffs, and also to open up something. The exact same two meanings in Akan are the exact same meanings derived from our ancestral language of Kemet. And when you look at her sacred symbolism, she's the great vulture as Nekabet. And when you see her name, Nekeb, the plant of the south, the sacred plant, the Nekeb plant, and so forth. But Nekeb also means to slay, to dig into, same as Abba. To kill, to slay, to dig into with a weapon, and to open, to break open, Nekeb, Keb. So now the same words, to stick, staff, to use it to beat or strike and so forth, but also to open up. The same two meanings for Abba are the same two meanings for the deity Nekabet. Because it's the same goddess with the same energy. Now, these two goddesses, when she's shown as a woman, here her name is spelled as Nekabet. On above, you see she's a female with the head of the, the headdress of a vulture here. But sometimes she's shown as her sacred animal totem, that animal that carries her energy. Sometimes they'll just show her symbolically as a vulture, as you can see here. And they'll show her sister, Wachet, as a cobra. On the head of the sovereign, the vulture, and the cobra, you'll see that always. Because they protect royal sovereignty, and sometimes they're both shown as two fire-spitting cobras, Wachet and Nekabet, or Ya and Abba. The Nubian sovereign, he has Wachet and Nekabet as two serpents, fire-spitting cobra, and so forth. But the name of the serpent on the royal crown, one of them is Wachet, one of them is Nekabet. But one of the titles is Abat, the name of the serpent on the royal crown, Abut. That's a title or variation of Abba. The serpent on the royal crown, the same goddess, the protectress of royal sovereignty that protects the sovereign, whether it's the queen mother or the king and so forth. Abat in Ancient Kemet is her praise name. It's Abba in Akan, Oba in Yoruba, Ayaba in Vodun, the Ewe people and so forth. Same deity, same goddess, same meanings. Abba, to strike with a stick and so forth, to wage war, to attack, to defend, also to open up. So, and she governs the south and so forth, and the sacred lotus that opens up. You see here, she's in the form of a vulture flying over the Ensu, the king, the Per'a, so-called pharaoh. When he's in battle, she's with him, protecting him with a great ring. She's the protectress of royal sovereignty. So there are a number of associations with that. Protection, defense, resilience, overcoming obstacles, fighting, waging war, securing victory in war, and so forth. You see her together with, that's her in the form of the sacred vulture. This is her sister Wachet in the form of the cobra. That's when they're in their sacred animal totem forms. And then the sacred eye of Heru is representative of the sovereign, the king. So they're protecting him, just like they protect him on the crown with the vulture and the, cobra, or two cobras. They're protecting him, fire-spitting cobra. Well, sometimes they show this symbol, the eye of the king, the sacred all-seeing eye, and so forth, represents the sovereign. And then the two sisters are protected. But then they're shown as two women. So we show another symbol, the exact same symbol here. This is that same symbol right here. You have Nekabet and Wachet, and the symbol of the eye representing the sovereign. And here, from the tomb of Seti in Abju, so-called Abydos, and when we visit Kemet, you will see this, relief. You have the two goddesses and the sovereign sitting in between. So this symbol right here is represented in a different pictorial way right here. This is the same representation. Their animal totem form, and then their, goddess form flanking the king. So in ancient Kemet, that's Wachet, the king, Per-A, who carries the energy of Heru, and then Nekabet. In Akan, that's Ya, who we're going to talk about soon, Yao, the male divinity, and Abba. In Yoruba, that's Oya, Shango, and Oba. In Fon, which is the Vodun tradition, that's Avejida, Hevioso, and Ayaba. As we said, sometimes they're shown as winged cobras with the solar disk that fires. So the winged is the animate part, and the cobra is it's electromagnetic energy, basically, that surrounds the planet. So you see that the magnetic poles, you see the serpent energy, the wave energy, and then you see the wings and so forth, and the solar disk, that wave, expansive, wavy solar fire, that's electromagnetic energy. The magnetic wave energy that expands and contracts, which is the wings, which makes it animate, with the solar fire, that's electromagnetic force. The northern and southern poles that surround, magnetic forces that surround the earth, that's the magnetic field governed by Wachet and Nekabet, Oya and Oba, Ya and Abba, that fire-spitting cobra that spits out that energy to attack the enemies before they can get to the king. The magnetic field that surrounds you, that repels things that comes near you before they can get to you and so forth. The force field of energy surrounding the planet, that is Wachet and Nekabet. That's Ya and Abba. So, and they show the symbolism in ancient Kemet. They'll show the plant of the south and the plant of the north, governed by those two goddesses, wrapped around the sacred Smai Taoist symbol. In the body, that's the lung structure, and the plants represent the bronchial tubes. So all the symbolism of ancient Kemet can be found biologically as well. But the reason, it's very detailed, so we're skimming through a little bit, but I just wanted you to show that, you to see that that same symbol of the Smai Taoist symbol with the two plants, north and south, representing Wachet in the north, the goddess Wachet, and the goddess Nekabet in the south. These are the bronchial trees and so forth. That is the same Wawa Abba symbol. In Akan, that's that same symbol representative of Wachet and Nekabet and so forth. And then we even talk about how the goddess Wachet is Awat in Coptic, as you can see here. And Awat, Wachet or Awat in Coptic becomes Awa, Wawa, and so forth, the Ayawa. So we're showing some linguistic information to show the relationship between Awa and Wawa, Abba, and so forth, just to show us the same thing. Then we also show here that the heart is representative of the king who sits in the center and so forth, and those two goddesses who govern the bronchial tubes and the plant of the north and the plant of the south, and the expansion and contraction of the lungs that lead to the, magnetic field, the force field of energy surrounding you. Just like the jet stream moving around the planet generates and helps to generate that electromagnetic field that surrounds the planet and so forth, as well as the spinning of the planet and what's happening on the, at the core of the planet and so forth. The jet stream moving around helps to expand that magnetic field. So you have the king sitting in the middle, the heart, and then you have the bronchial tubes that give birth to the expansion and contraction of air and solar fire, magnetic energy surrounding the body and surrounding the planet. This biologically is this spiritually. The spiritual forces that animate the heart and the bronchial trees within the lungs are here. So when you have the batting of the wings, remember Abba, stick, to bat, to beat, to strike. Abba, when the wings start batting the air and expand the fire. Just like you have a fire burning, you can fan the flames of the fire so it can expand. When that air starts moving around and expanding and whipping around, it generates that magnetic field and a strong force. That's what the wings of that great vulture begin to do and start moving things around and so forth. So there's a great deal of cosmology that revolves around all of that. We just wanted to, show that. We show that, the aura surrounding the body of the person. We'll get into a little bit more of that. And we show how all of the queen mothers have the vulture on the head as a representative of royal sovereignty. So when we talk about sovereignty, having sovereignty over yourself, your thoughts, intentions, and actions, your balanced emotional expression, balanced mental state, and so forth, then when you get into that Wawa Aba, as tough as the seed of the Wawa plant and so forth, the goddess Aba is a protectress of royal sovereignty, a guardian, a striker, a defender, one who overcomes obstacles, who guides the sovereign, the Ainsu, to victory at war and so forth. Literally, these forces in nature were invoked to assist the sovereign to wage war against invading armies, to be victorious. If they did that then, and of course we've always done that, these are the same divinities we invoke to ensure war, victory in actual war. We do the same thing if we're ill and there are certain things we need to overcome bacterial infection, to stimulate your immune system and so forth, to destroy, negative bacteria and so forth. The same thing mentally when someone, projects some negative thoughts, intentions, perverse desires and so forth, controlling kinds of thoughts, and you need to repel that. You need to bat the wings, fan the flames of your life force energy to make your aura strong, to repel these idiots and repel their thoughts. And even if you need to fight physically, martial arts wise and so forth, when people are expanding and contracting the lungs for fire breathing so that they can, strengthen their quote unquote chi, which is actually a title of Ra in ancient Kemet. Just like they can break boards or cinder blocks, they can break bones and so forth. You're expanding your capacity by invoking the divinity, Abba and so forth, so you can overcome obstacles. So this Wawa Abba seed, it's not just a symbol, it's not just a saying and so forth. It's talking about, we'll use the symbol to invoke the Abosom, the goddess Abba, to strengthen her shrine within us so we can expand that energy so we can overcome obstacles. So it's not that obstacles won't occur. Look at the Ainsu in ancient Kemet, the king, the sovereign. The armies from Mitanni, the so-called Hittite Empire and so forth, which is now Turkey and so forth, invading northern Kemet. And then we're waging war and destroying them. And he's seeking the assistance of the divinity, Abba as well as Yah, Nekabet as well as Wachet, to ensure victory over physical armies. If they can do that, then surely we can invoke the same divinity to overcome, obstacles in life, to have the capacity of, fortitude and discipline and foresight to overcome perceived obstacles. So that's what we're talking about. Okay, so let's flip to the other symbol, and then we'll be done. I don't want to keep you long tonight. And of course, if you have any questions, you can post them in the chat room. Okay, so that was the first post that we made on Facebook. We were talking about, and you look on our page, you'll see what we're talking about. And then the second one we posted, it was just this one, the Ayah, the fern, and so forth. So we said, from our article on the Abosom goddess Yah, called Wachet in Kemet, the sister of Abba, the sister of the goddess we just saw. The sacred adinkra symbol is Ayah, the fern. And the proverb is Main Surawa. So before we show that, let's go to a website that shows, the symbols. Many websites have, the symbols, the adinkra symbols, cataloged. Okay, so this is one of them. So it says Aya, the meaning and philosophical significance of Aya. Aya means fern. It's a symbol of a fern. Symbol of endurance, independence, defiance against difficulties, hardiness, perseverance, and resourcefulness. So that's the general meaning that, most websites will give you about what that represents. So let's give the soulosophy or the Akan cosmology, the hoodoo philosophy of that associated with the actual divinity, the deity that governs this. And that's the difference that these websites won't give you because they typically don't know. They're not part of the tradition. They're not invoking these goddesses. They don't know who they are. So in the Akan language, so just like Abba in Akan is Nekebet in ancient Kemet, but she's also called Abat and Abut in Kemet, as we saw. So even her praise name in the Medutu, as the serpent on the royal crown, was Abet or Abat or Abut. That's a variation of Abba. In Akan, the goddess is called Ya. Hold on a second. Okay. She's Ya in Akan, in the Akan language. In H. Kemet, her most popular title is Wachet. In the Yoruba tradition, she is the Orisha Oya. In Vodun, she's called Avejida. So as you can see, we say that Ya is the Abosom, the deity of the Uchin, Ya, which is Uranus. Her day is Yada, which is Thursday. She's referred to as fierce attacker, relentlessly assailing disorder. Ya is the Abosom of fighting and punishment. Ya is an Abosom, a divinity who is, again, a protectress of royal sovereignty, just like Abba and so forth. Ya, along with her twin sister, Abba, who we just talked about, governed the divine magnetosphere, a governmental structure preserving the stability within Abadiye, within creation. The magnetosphere surrounding the planet preserves stability of the planet. So creation is the divine body of Inyamewa and Inyame, the supreme being, and thus the magnetosphere permeating Asase Afur, the earth mother, and the Afurakani or African black body. So that's the planet Uranus, of course. It's important that bluish green structure because the name Wachet literally means greenish in the language of ancient Kemet. She's called Oya in Yoruba, as we said, Avejida and Evian Fon, the Vodun culture, and so forth. So, in the Akan language, what is the general definition of the word Ya? Her name is Ya. What's the general definition of the word Ya in the Akan language? You'll see it means to chide, to scold, attack, rebuke, then Ya Ya De, torture. Ya also means pain or affliction. And the masculine version is Yao. So you have Ya for the feminine version, Yao for the masculine version. So to attack, Ya, but also Ya, pain or affliction. Okay. So if you look in the language of ancient Kemet, you'll find that the words, and you pronounce the reed here, the little reed symbol as eh, and the twisted flax as the H symbol. So let's just show that. The reed right here can be an ah, or it can be an eh, and the twisted flax right here is the H sound. So what you have in the language of ancient Kemet, eh and ah together is ea, ea, and ah, or ha becomes ea, eha, ea. That's where we get iya. When you say ya, what you're really saying is, you're saying the Y, the ya sound, what you're saying is E and ah together. E and ah is iya, iya. That's where you get the ya. pronunciation from. So in Kemet, they break them up into the two symbols, the eh sound, which is the quote unquote A, the reed, and the twisted flex is the H sound, the ha sound. So E or I and ha is iha, iha, iya. So what does it mean in H Kemet? In Akan, we said Ya means to shy, to scold, to attack. And then Ya also means pain or affliction. Two different meanings. In ancient Kemet, two different meanings. To attack, to fight. Iya, iya. To smite, to fight. Spears, arrows, to fight. Iya. And then you also have Iya, sadness, misery, trouble, calamity, affliction. So the same two meanings for the word in Akan, the exact same two meanings for the same word in ancient Kemet. Why is that the case? Because they represent attributes of the divinity who carries an energy complex, who brings the pain when she's waging war against the enemy. She attacks, she fights, this fire-spitting cobra, and she brings the pain. She wages war. She brings punishment or punishment. So the reason why those two words are connected linguistically and cosmologically, because they represent the functioning of the spirit force through creation and the effect that she has on creation. All right. So we show some linguistic things, and you have Ya in Akan. There's also a variation, which is Yawa and Ayawa and so forth. So her most popular title is Wachet in ancient Kemet. Her sacred animal totem is the fire-spitting cobra. You see the fire-spitting cobra. Here's Ra, the fire-spitting cobra surrounding the sun on his head and so forth. The female divinity, Sekhmet, who has the head of the lioness, with the fire-spitting cobra on the head. The sovereign, Per-A, so-called Pharaoh Amenhotep, the cobra on the head and so forth, forehead. Even the papyrus plant that you see, the plant of the north, the watch plant, is in the form similar to the cobra and so forth. So she's Ya in Akan, also Aya, Aya, all of that. We show that we show linguistically that Wachet is Wachat or Owat. In the Coptic dialect, it's Owat, Awat, and Awat becomes Ayowa and Akan, and Ayawa and Aya and Yawa and so forth. So we show some linguistic relationships between the terms there. We already showed this in the article with Abba. You have Abba as the vulture, Ya as the serpent, but sometimes they're just both shown as two serpents surmounting the solar disk, fiery serpents that spit fire and venom to attack the enemy. We already showed that. We showed that big eye that you see in the planet Yao or Jupiter. You see that that's the same eye in ancient Kemet, so forth. And the deity that governs that planet, this is the reason why his symbol is the eye and so forth. So, but we already showed this, that symbol, Wachet, the king or the sovereign Heru, divinity, and Nekabet, is representative of Wachet, the goddess Wachet, the goddess Nekabet, and the king in the position of the sovereign of the god Heru and so forth. That's the same representation. Sometimes they're winged cobras, so that winged animate wavy energy, and animate wavy energy is electromagnetic, with the solar disk showing the solar fire associated with electromagnetic energy. The undulant serpent, we already showed, that's the magnetosphere, that wavy animate energy fired by the sun that surrounds the planet is the energy of the two winged cobras, which is Wachet and Nekabet. All right. And we already showed this. Same thing. It's just showing. But then you also show The plant of the north is the Watchet plant. The plant of the south is, the Nekeb plant. These plants represent Watchet and Nekebet and the sovereign in the center, as we said, the bronchial tree, and then the Aya plant, coordinated with the Wawa Aba. Well, here's Aya, the fern, and she's representative of the tree right inside the chest here, the shrine space, where she's residing. So within the bronchial tree. So we have another little tree. We have the Wawa tree and so forth. Now we have the fern tree. And what do we have to say about the fern? I want to get back to that. What we had to say about the fern is the symbolism and the proverb associated with that. The ebe is men suro wa. I do not fear you. I'm independent of you. And what we're saying here is, in the context of perceived obstacles, our stance is like Aya, the fern, which grows despite very unwelcoming circumstances, like a rose growing out of the concrete. The Aya, the fern, rises in various harsh conditions, yet stands firm without fear, represents independence and overcoming adversity, like the Wawa Aba adinkra symbol in the related post. This adinkra symbol called Aya and its related ebe proverb was created by our Nananom Mpanyinfo, our spiritually cultivated elders and elderesses, to remind us that adherence to your Nkrabia, your divine function, your life purpose, is not disrupted by adversity. Indeed, such adherence to your divine function, quote unquote, life purpose, fuels you to overcome adversity. These are principles we live by. We said the same thing about the Wawa Aba symbol. We said that adinkra symbol and its related ebe or proverb was created by our Nananom Mpanyinfo, our spiritually cultivated elders and elderesses. They create these symbols and show us that to remind us that adherence to your Nkrabia, that's the masculine and feminine expression. What is your divine function in creation? As Afurakani people, we have a divine function to execute in creation. Just like every cell, your liver cell is designed to execute liver functions. When they support liver functions, then they support you, the great being. Your pancreas cells are designed and come into being to execute pancreas functions. When they execute pancreas functions, they serve their parent organ or deity, the pancreas. Then they're serving you, the supreme being, at the same time. We are cells, plant life, animal life, mineral life, and Afurakani, African Black human life. We are cells within the great divine body of Nyame, the great mother and great father, supreme being, where we are executing our specific function as cells as part of a specific organ and organ system within the great divine body. We're children of, the immune system structure in the great divine body. We're naturally inclined towards, defense, waging war against the enemy and things like that in a certain capacity. And we carry that immune system function out in the community. We're naturally inclined towards that kind of defense, security, police enforcement in a traditional sense, law enforcement, all those kinds of things, if we carry that kind of fiery energy. If we're a healer, a healeress, and so forth, a more cool, watery energy and so forth, we're a child of a certain divinity. That's our divine function in the great divine body. So, what the piece is saying is, our Nsamanfo give us these symbols to remind us of the divinities that govern creation, our relationship to these forces in nature as their cells, how we use their energy to align ourselves with order so we can execute that function in creation. When we adhere to our specific divine function, the Nkrabia, our divine function in creation, our life purpose, then when you do that, it's not disrupted by adversity. Indeed, such adherence to your divine function actually fuels you to overcome adversity. The only time you succumb to adversity is when you get knocked off of your path and you stay off the path. But when you get knocked off of your path, your divine function, you're functioning in the world harmoniously, we engage the ritual process. We pour libation, we engage in SUSUW meditation, we engage in ritual prayer, apai, ritual song, ejum, ritual dance. I saw with different forms of ritual practice to realign ourselves with order, to incorporate those things, objects, deeds, and entities we need to incorporate in order to align our thoughts, intentions, and actions with order, and to reject those things, objects, and deeds and entities we need to reject in order to restore a balance to our thoughts, intentions, and actions. So to pour libation or engage in ritual chant or ritual song or ritual prayer or ritual dance or ritual meditation, to realign ourselves with the forces in creation, specifically the ones that govern our head and our ancestral clans, to get back on track, expand our energy, overcome obstacles, and move forward, and get back in alignment with order, then perceived obstacles are overcome. You realign with your divine function, you overcome adversity. If you stay out of alignment with your divine function, then these perceived obstacles become more stationary, and adversity causes you a lot of problems. So it was important that we talked about that, because when we made those posts and we talked about the personal issue and so forth and how it could present a perceived obstacle, we also wanted to show people through our culture the philosophy or the soulosophy of overcoming adversity and obstacles through resilience and, independence and focus and discipline, actually by invoking these forces in nature that govern these things. So it's not just about reading, about adinkra symbols and memorizing proverbs and philosophically repeating them and sounding like an intellectual. You can look at Wawa Aba, the symbol. You can look at Aya, the symbol, the fern, and so forth. But it's also used ritually, whether it's through SUSUW meditation, through drawing the symbol on the shrine and so forth, or placing that or having a representation of that sumine and so forth, invoking the spirit, realigning your energy with that force in creation, and overcoming the obstacle. So, okay, let me. So I just want to make sure we have any. If you have any questions on anything that we touched on. Okay, so one question: how does one invoke or use this energy to get protection or defend himself from and against the ones attacking him or her? So we will give a specific example. Let me remove this right quick. So one of the best ways to do that, and the first thing that we do when we practice ancestral religion is reestablishing a relationship with our Nsamanfo, our ancestresses and ancestors, who's actually the first line of defense along with your Kra to, any kind of, disorder. So let me show you real quick the on our page. And we've done some, when you Google this, on our YouTube page, you'll see that we've done some videos on this, but I just want to show you this real quick. So this is our Akongwasuya page. Some of you are familiar with this. We've done some lives on this. So in addition to the 32 books we have out, over the past 25 years, we've created and curated and taught 42 online courses based on the 31 books, plus, a number of other articles that we published, as well as other, research and so forth. So you'll see on the page, you can access, this is a collage of all the 42 flyers for these online courses. You can access them. We also have our if you look on our recent posts, you'll see that we have our Akongwasuya program, a degree program, Bachelor's of Arts in Philosophy degree program, also dealing with entrepreneurship, edupreneurship, and so forth. But when you scroll down, you'll see the original flyers for all of these classes. And one of them is the Nkom course. And we talk about this when you look on our channel and you just, search our channel. We have hundreds of videos, but you search Nkom or you search ancestral shrine communication, you'll see one of the videos pop up and so forth. But the Nkom course is 4 elemental rituals of spirit communication, practical instruction. Oshuye, Nkombre, SUSUW, and Okra Guare, which is libation, ancestral shrine, meditation, soul or spiritual head cleansing. That particular course, we give practical instruction. It was a 4-week course that is now archived, so you can access the archives and so forth. Practical instruction on how to engage the SUSUW process, which is meditation, Oshuye, which is libation, Okra Guare, which is soul washing, cleansing the spiritual head, and establishing an Nkomre, which is an ancestral shrine that's part of all ancestral tradition, no matter what group we come from. Everybody has their own name for establishing, shrine for the Nsamanfo, realigning yourself and so forth. They become that. You can always communicate with your Nsamanfo, your ancestresses and ancestors wherever you are, but to set a time, a specific time, a specific place, and a specific manner to deal with them in a more direct fashion. You can engage in a more meaningful and in-depth communication. You can realign yourself with order. They give you some guidance. You get back on track. You align yourself with the divinity that governs your own head and so forth. But meditation, SUSUW, at the shrine space, a very simple shrine space for your spiritually cultivated class of ancestresses and ancestors. That's the first line of defense to begin to repel, negative projections and so forth. But it's a very involved thing, but we did an entire course. This particular one, if you look at the various courses on the page, let me go back. So you'll see the original flyers for all of them, all 42 flyers. For example, one of them is the Medutun Toro Divine Inscription, learning how to read and write the Medutu, the hieroglyphics, parts 1 and part 2. But this one, they're 50% off because they're archived instead of live. So the 50% off for this one, for example, is $10 for that course, and we'll send you the 4 weeks. Most of them are 2-hour sessions, sometimes longer. Of course, the book downloads are free that we talk about in the course. So, but that's the direct, you take time and go through that and, start that process. Okay, so any other questions on the information that we shared? Okay, so let me show this right here. Okay, so that's also another, let me pull that up too, because this is actually coming up Monday. The final 4-week session for SUSUW, which is the ancient Akan term for meditation. So let me show you that, because you asked about, or you talked about struggling with meditation, and that's common because especially the way that it's taught from a Eurocentric perspective. So our next SUSUW meditation instructor certification course is actually starting Monday. This is the final one for the summer. It's from August 25th through September 15th, Monday evenings at 8 p.m. So, typically the sessions are 90 minutes. So it's a 4-week online course. At the end of the 4 weeks, and this is the trailer for that, talking about the course, Once you finish the 4-week course, you will have your certification. So you can conduct meditation sessions, introductory at places of business. When they have people come out, they'll pay people $100, $200 to come out and conduct a simple meditation session, 10 or 15 minutes for their employees before a seminar on enhancing work productivity, because meditation does that. And they begin to, many corporations incorporate that now. So they pay people to come out and, hey, we're going to have a workshop today. Can you start us off with a 10-minute meditation? You take them through the 10-minute meditation. We show you how to conduct that. They pay you a couple $100. They do the same thing in schools, well as elementary or high school or colleges and so forth. They'll bring someone out, to conduct a short meditation session for the students right before the first bell or after school programs. Same thing in human services organizations, whether it's social services organizations, women's shelters, family shelters, people trying to get on their feet, mental health organizations when they have, therapy groups, group therapy. Once a week, they may have a group therapy session, and on Fridays, they'll bring you out and say, hey, before we start our group therapy, we're going to have this sister come out or this brother come out. They're going to do a short SUSUW session, which is an African approach to meditation. A simple session, you take them through a few minutes. It helps them to focus and realign and so forth. So, but you can get, hold on one second. You will, when you go through the 4-week session, you'll be, certified to do so. And we do so that, number one, there's a great deal of misinformation about what SUSUW meditation is, because it's from a corrupted so-called Hindu perspective. Of course, we wrote the book, Ankh, the origin of the term yoga, Karakasa, the origin and nature of the chakra, showing that the terms yoga and chakra come from the language and culture of ancient Kemet, thousands of years before India. So when you give a proper context and what SUSUW actually is, meditation actually is, then it changes the mindset. And we use adinkra symbols as well as sacred achineboa, animal totems, for focal points for meditation and so forth. It's a different thing. So that course begins Monday. You can sign up for it now. We have about 10 spots left available. So it's an online course on the Zoom platform. We record all the sessions, so even if you miss a session or you can't take the first session at 8 p.m., you have the recording. So if you miss a session, we always send you the recording the day after the session, so you can always catch up with them and so forth. After the 4 weeks, you get your certification, and you can use that certification to generate income for yourself immediately. Some people do it full-time, some people do it part-time, and so forth. But we go through that process of, how to engage the SUSUW of the meditation process. All right. Okay, so I've been having a lot of vivid dreams and don't know what to do with them. Is that like hoodoo or voodoo or something else? So the dream state, and let me put this in the chat room since you brought that up. It's called Adai. The Akan language, we actually mentioned that in the first session within the meditation course. So we talk about the Adai state. This page is Akwesi Adai, Wusi Adai, and Awuku Adai. Every 6th Sunday and every 6th Wednesday, there's a sacred Adai observance. The most recent one was August 17th, this past Sunday. It was a sacred Adai or ancestral observance. Adai means a sleeping or a resting period. It also means a dream, but it's also a ritual state. And we just had that sacred observance Sunday. Let me pull this up. Adai is a term meaning to sleep or resting period. It's also the dream state. Akwesi Adai, Wusi Dai, and Awuko Dai are points within the 42-day Adadria 9 cycle where time is naturally suspended. It's a sacred sleeping or resting period. We take a rest from the physical world and focus our conscious and energy in the ancestral realm that we may be nourished and regenerated therefrom. When we awaken from our spiritual rest, we are refreshed and retooled to carry out our krabia, our divinely allotted function in creation. So, Adai, or the dream state, is also a ritual state. That's also a form of SUSUW, or meditation. So we do cover that in the very first session, as a matter of fact, but that's across the board. Any culture, voodoo, hoodoo, juju, wanga, and gangai, gola, kisi, gullah, geechee, and so forth, gree, whatever it is, the Adai state, the dream state, is a sacred resting period or time suspension period where you can engage the ancestral realm, the spirit realm, and so forth, asamando. So yes, that's part of the process. Excuse me. Okay, so yes, people do have sometimes what are called guided meditations. When you learn about who you actually are culturally, we have a matriclan divinity, a patriclan divinity, just like you have a sperm cell from the father and ovum cell from the mother that carries the genetic material of the father and mother. They unite, and that's blended. But the energetic force that animated the sperm cell of the father, that's the patriclan divinity, which is the Toro and Akan tradition, or the Ejaboson. The energetic force that animated the ovum cell is the Abusi Aboson, or the matriclan Aboson on the feminine side. So you have a patriclan deity and a matriclan deity that support the divine function that governs the deity that governs your head. Just like you have, your two lungs and your brain and so forth, you have a matriclan and patriclan deity that support your divine function. When you know who you are, what your function in the world is, what your spiritual potencies are and capacities are, and the symbols associated with your clan, then you have a focused meditation. If someone says, just close your eyes and focus on breathing, and that's because the white star offspring don't have a matriclan or patriclan divinity. They don't have a deity governing the head. They don't have a divine function in the world. That's an aimless kind of thing. And their approach to meditation is an aimless kind of thing. It has no grounding. We came into the world to execute a function. A cancer cell doesn't have a function in the body, so it's just moving around, attacking everything. The white star offspring don't have a function in creation. They have the cancerous cells moving through the body of Black humanity across the world, trying to consume and destroy everything for thousands of years. So they're not grounded. They don't have a function or a purpose. So they're just aimless. And when they try to take our ritual traditions like SUSUW meditation and try to repackage it and say, this is what you need to do, it's an aimless kind of, amoeba-like, approach, which is misguided. All right. So we have a couple of things going on. So let me just share those once again for those who came in a little bit later. And when you look back, at the whole live, you'll understand what we're talking about. But so right now we are working to complete. Gotta make sure this moved. All right, it didn't make. So our Hoodoo film trilogy we did. This is volume 1, the first Hoodoo film. You can watch that for free on our page. Okay, so that's a ritual correspondence as well. Okay, so you read on our page, and those colors, the color white in association with the ritual practice and certain divinities. It depends on who's governing you. There's certain divinities who have the sacred color is white, specific to them, like Awusi, but also the deity Min and some expressions of Aset and Heteru and so forth. So it depends on what's going on, but that's or sometimes the ancestral community as well. So that's not an uncommon, set of symbols. But so when you look on our YouTube page, you will see the film. This is a full documentary film. We made it freely available, so you can watch it. It's 102 minutes. That's part one of our Hoodoo film trilogy. We are working on part two now. If you listened to earlier in this broadcast, you will see what we were talking about. One of the reasons we did this whole, breakdown of overcoming adversity rooted in our ancestral religious soulosophy, Hoodoo soulosophy or Akan Cosmology, is because of the personal experience we shared, inclusive of myself being stalked for 7 years by this mentally ill person, and she's been incarcerated a number of times. She's in a psychiatric hospital now. We had a court date last week. We have another one this week to determine whether or not she's going to prison or if she's going to be committed civilly for like a year or two in this psychiatric hospital that she is housed in right now. But that pushback, because I've been to court over 20, now it's going to be 27 times over the past few years, including the appellate court, and she petitioned the Supreme Court twice, which of course she lost. But I still had to fight these, this nonsensical case and so forth, sitting on the stand, doing testimony, all kinds of things. So that pushed us back. It pushed us back with regard to the release of our most recent book, but we did release it in February. It pushed us back with regard to the film. So we need some assistance so we can get back on track to complete this film by October, which will be the 2-year anniversary of the first Hoodoo film. And it will also be our 11th annual Hoodoo Mind, Hoodoo Nation Festival. This is the flyer for our Hoodoo Mind, Hoodoo Nation Festival. It's going to be October 18th. We want to finish the Hoodoo film so we can have a pre-screening for all of you who contributed to the film, whether you come in person or you get on the live stream private link so you can watch the film and so forth. But we still have some more filming to do and then the post-production. We can still get it done by October. We do need assistance. When you listen to our 13-part series on, the whole stalking scenario, let me show you that for those who came in a little bit later. Okay, so for those who, you come in later, if you came in later, you'll see that I detailed that whole, especially, it's been 7 years, but this month, as a matter of fact, it's been 7 years since the stalking began. For the past 4 years, been in and out of court over 25 times and, dealing with civil and criminal lawsuits and so forth, and her escaping the state and having to be captured in Kansas by the U.S. Marshals and being extradited back to D.C. to face the new set of 8 criminal contempt charges and so forth, which just happened in April when all that happened. And they brought her back to D.C. in April to be arraigned on these new charges and so forth. So all of that, cost a lot of resources, a lot of time, we were supposed to have this film out last year, but, we're going to do what we need to do and get it out by the anniversary. So if you can assist us in that process, we appreciate it. We're working closer to our goals. So what we want to do is we want to have, we're just trying to raise 1/3 of the goal for August, at least 1/3 of it, so we can get some more of the equipment to complete the filming. We've done some of it. Then the other 1/3 we can raise in, September, and then the final 1/3, like the end of September, beginning of October. So if we can raise the first 1/3, we're like at, let me see, 4% right now. So even if we got to like 20 or 30% in August, will be good for August. Then we can focus on the other 33% in September. Once we get to September, right now we just want to focus on August. So if you'd like to support that, we appreciate that. And we appreciate those who contributed while we were doing the lives before and, over the past few days. We appreciate your support in that. So we thank you for that. Also, again, if you would like to, our final session for Meditation Instructor Certification course is Monday. If you would like to sign up for that, you can sign up for that now. We have about 10 spots available. We do have a payment plan option. If you want to do a payment plan option, we have different options for that. Since you're a subscriber, you get the discount anyway. So the class is $399. You get the option $299, but you can break up the payments. You can put the down payment of $99 and then you can pay it over the months, pay it off. But by the time you finish on September 15th, when you book your first session, they typically pay $100 to $200 to, have you come out and do a session at a business or human services organization or a cultural organization or at a school and so forth. The first couple of times you teach, that will have covered your tuition. But if you need to do a payment plan, we have that option. A monthly payment plan, we have that option on the page. So the SUSUW course, I'll put the link in the chat room for that. And again, that is August 25th through September 15th, Monday nights. And then the final piece, which we touched on briefly, we won't go into a lot of detail here. Look at our previous live on this on the Akongwa page. So if you want to look at that, look at this most recent video. A couple of them, the NIMDEESEM, you see that, and the Edupreneur video. And we posted the recent trailer, Bachelor of Arts degree in philosophy. So our 42 online courses together comprise a Bachelor of Arts in Philosophy degree that we call NIMDEESEM. You can do it as a 42-week program, or you can do it at minimum a 21-week program, or it can be in between like 30 weeks. We go through the entire process, but when you go through the entire course, receive your Bachelor of Arts in Philosophy, and we also show you how to utilize that immediately, even within the first 2 weeks, to start generating income as an edupreneur, which is the term for educational entrepreneur. So whether it's human services organizations, places of employment, community organizations, cultural organizations that bring you out to do presentations and so forth, as well as part of that philosophy degree program is the first 2 weeks of it out of the 42 weeks is the SUSUW program, the Meditation Instructor Certification. So you can take that standalone if you want to. You just want to get certified to become a meditation instructor certified. You can do that. You'll be done, by September 15th. You can start generating money. Or if you want to go take get the bachelor's degree in philosophy, the 42-week program, within the first 2 weeks of that, the first course that you test on is the meditation instructor certification. So you can get your certification soon. You can start generating money within the first few weeks while you're continuing the 42-week bachelor's degree. We're not going to make you wait the whole 42 weeks before you can get that first certification. You can get the meditation instructor certification, that credential, and start utilizing that in different businesses and organizations to generate income for yourself as an entrepreneur while you're continuing to study and complete the bachelor's degree program. And once you have the bachelor's degree, then there are many cultural organizations, places of employment, human services organizations, and all other kinds of places that we list that will bring you out to engage in presentations, and they'll pay you to come out. Many employers, for example, have Juneteenth celebrations, Martin Luther King celebrations, Black History Month celebrations, Memorial Day celebrations, a number of these different things that cultural or a community or corporations, they have committees set aside, they have money set aside. They're like, do you know anybody who can speak on our Martin Luther King Day observance or our Black History observance or our Juneteenth observance or our Kwanzaa observance or whatever? You say, I have a bachelor's degree in philosophy, in African culture and so forth. They like, as long as you got that credential, they will cut the check. As long as they can see that you have some kind of credential that satisfies the funding sources, and they'll cut the check for you, and you can craft your own presentations. You can do the same thing at human services organizations. They all have these kinds of events. They have money set aside for that. Same thing with cultural organizations. But then you also, as we said before, when you go to human services organizations and they have group therapy sessions, they often bring people out because, you know, when you talk about self-worth and knowledge of who you are, your identity, that grounds people and that assists them in their mental health journey. So they always bring people out to participate, you know, like once a week in a group therapy session as a change of pace from the regular group therapy. They'll bring someone in to say, hey, he's going to talk about, or she's going to talk about our culture and who we are as a people and our resilience and our capacity for resilience and everything else, like we talked about tonight. So if you would like to register for that, we are open enrollment is right now for the degree program, Akongwa. Again, that's payment plan option is available as well. You can do a $99 down payment plan. It's self-study. It's at your own pace. Now, the SUSUW course is a 4-week course. It's every Monday from August 25th to September 15th. That is, you know, the meditation instructor certification. And as we said, if you miss a night and so forth, we record them anyway, so we would just send you the video anyway. But that's a live course. But the degree program, the 42-week degree program, that you can also finish in 21 weeks, it depends on your pace. That's a self-study pace where you study the course and the books and everything for the first course. When you're ready to test on that, we do a live Zoom. I give you the link. We test on that. We also answer questions and so forth. Once you complete that module, then you study the next module. You go through all the courses in the next, you know, say it was a 6-week session. Go through all of them, study the books and everything else. When you're ready, we test on that one, and we go all the way through all 42 courses. And just like a regular philosophy course or degree program at a major university, it's usually about 40 courses that you have to take to obtain a Bachelor of Arts in philosophy, like at, you know, Georgia State University or Penn University and so forth. 40 courses. We have 42 courses, and we're teaching actual, real useful philosophy, not some Greco-Roman pseudo philosophy that has no use whatsoever. So, okay. So let me make sure. I just want to make sure I didn't miss any questions. All right. Okay, how long is enrollment open for the bachelor's? I start class on the 25th as well, and I'm taking 4 classes, so I'll have to sign up later. So it's not too much. So it's open in August, and the semester is starting like now. As soon as we reach, so it's basically the fall semester, so to speak, starting in August and can go into September as far as enrollment, but actually it's the number that we're reaching. So once we get to 25 people, then enrollment will be complete, because we have to test each person. So, you know, we can't really go beyond 25 people. So once we get to 25, then we'll just close enrollment for this semester. So, and then we'll just do it again, you know, next year. But so right now we still have some spots open for enrollment, but once we reach the 25 number. So for example, every week we'll be testing people. I couldn't really test more than 25 people in a week because that takes a lot of time. So that's why we're stopping at 25. So once we reach that number, we'll be done. Okay, so thank you for modeling such strength, resilience, maturity, and sanity. And I'll say for that. And so if you're unaware of the probably referencing this, you know, 7-year thing, I didn't go into detail, but when you see, when we're talking about someone who has a mental health disorder, but a feature of that specific diagnosis, I won't mention the diagnosis because that's, like a HIPAA violation. For this individual, a feature of the mental illness is one who is not only prone to stalking, but prone to excessive litigation. So she filed a defamation suit against me, which was absurd. Of course, I had to answer that. She filed over 40 motions, hundreds of pages. Then she's filed thousands of pages of motions, just writing, which we have to respond to. The appellate court, Supreme Court twice. All of it is nonsense, of course. I had to address all of that, which took a lot of time and loss of revenue for myself. And that's one of the reasons I posted online recently. But you will see that so much so that the judge had to impose a pre-filing injunction upon her to stop her from filing motions. So she's forbidden from filing any more motions unless she asks permission from the court, if she can file one, because she's flooded the docket with thousands of pages of nonsensical motions. So, and it has to do with, pretending to be human trafficked and, her son being decapitated, which was a pure fabrication, and escaping from slavery after 40 years and coming to my home with her sons on the bus from Kansas unannounced, all kinds of nonsense. So yes, there's been a lot going on for the past few years. But when I made that post and, went into detail about that, when it's talking about resilience, that's one of the reasons we posted on this, because we wanted people to see what happened. But some people may have been, when you see how crazy it is, and it took 4.5 hours to tell the entire story in a 13-part series, when it says legal system, mental illness, spirit children, and hoodoo, all that's included in all these filings, including the stalker petitioning the court to allow her to represent herself as her own counsel. She admitted she's diagnosed on multiple occasions with mental illness, a severe mental illness. Can't say which one it is. I do know what it is, but she would just file another motion, for that, another lawsuit, which she would fail at, but it still takes time away from me because I have to respond to these things. But this person with a severe mental illness petitioned the court and was granted the ability to serve as her own counsel. So after the assistant attorney general put me on the stand to tell my side of the story about what happened, then instead of her defense attorney coming to the stand and cross-examine me about her stalking me, she's representing herself as her own counsel. So this mentally ill person gets up and now she's cross-examining me on the witness stand about her stalking me. And that happened in 2 separate criminal trials. There have been 3 of them. I have another one coming up, most likely. So, and that's just less than 1% of all of the craziness that's happened in this case. 13-part series, when you look at it, you'll see I had to show the court orders and do that 13-part series, because if I was to just tell people the story, they wouldn't believe what I'm saying. They would say, you have to be making that up because nobody can come up with something that crazy. So when I show the actual court orders, I won't even get into all that. Just, you can check it out. So, but did I say for supporting, the work we're doing? Is it $350? So no, so the meditation instructor certification course, the 4-week course that starts Monday, that's $399. But those who are subscribers, you can get it for $299. It's a 25% discount for subscribers. And that is, it's $299, but we do have a payment plan. You can do $99 down and then pay the other $99 per month until it's paid off. That's for the 4-week, meditation instructor certification course. For the Bachelor of Arts in Philosophy, it's $600. You can still do $99 down and $99 a month, or you can pick different. There are different payment plan options on there, and you can check that out. For those who are already certified, you'll see this on the site. If you're already certified with the SUSUW course, say if you got certified months ago and you already have your certificate as a meditation instructor through our course, SUSUW course, since you already have that certification, your, bachelor's degree program is cheaper because you already paid for the previous certification. Okay, but that's all on the website. Okay, so once again, Yerase, we thank you all for tuning in and supporting the work. Please support the Hoodoo Film Trilogy crowdfund effort. And Yerase, we thank those of you who have contributed this week and contributed while we were on live right now and so forth. Yerase for that. We appreciate that. And Yabishabio, we will meet again.
SUSUW, Meditation Instructor Certification. SUSUW is the ancient Akan term for meditation. SUSUW originated in our ancestral culture of Afuraka, Africa, tens of thousands of years ago. This ancient practice has been utilized to regulate physical, emotional, and mental balance for millennia in varied expressions wherever our people have migrated in the world. The scientific benefits of meditation for youth and adults have been well documented, enhancing learning outcomes, regulating behavior, overcoming anxiety and depression, rebalancing hormones, lowering blood pressure, reducing stress, regulating weight loss, overcoming addictions, developing discipline, maintaining focus to overcome obstacles to short and long-term goals. Our meditation instructor certification is for individuals, independent contractors, educators, homeschoolers, human services professionals, behavioral health professionals, and others. As a certified instructor, you are qualified to contract with independent schools, charter schools, cultural organizations, corporate entities, women's and family shelters, community centers, colleges, and more to conduct meditation sessions on a daily, weekly, or periodic basis. Our instruction is rooted in our Nkwamwa whole life wellness model.
That means greetings. I just wanted to give a quick update. You'll get the details in the clip that follows. I just wanted to show everyone. So my soft cover book, Odwirafo True Historical Anthology, is now available. It's live on Amazon, but we also have a 30% discount when you order directly through our website. As we said before, in some of the postings and information we sent out, Amazon takes 60% off the top for booksellers on their distribution site and so forth. So we can offer it at a 30% discount, on our website. So you'll get the information in the clip that follows, but 8.5 by 11 size, 600 pages, full color, and we go into detail about various aspects of Afurakani, Afuraikaitni, African Ancestral Religion, culture, nation building, true historical information, spirituality, cosmology, and every facet of Afurakani, Afuraikaitni, African Black identity, and so forth. So check out the clip that follows. We look forward to connecting with you, and Yerase, we thank you for your support.
Odwirafo, True Historical Anthology. This is a collection of 12 books in one volume written by Odwirafo Kwesi Radnehmpata Akan. This 600-page anthology is comprised of 12 books within the 31-book corpus published by Odwirafo, which focus on trustery, cosmology, ritual, identity, and nation-building restoration for Afurakani, Afuraikaitni people, African Black people, wherever we exist in the world. Included within this anthology is the origin of the fictional characters Jesus, Allah, Yahweh, Buddha, and more. The etymology of the term God in the language of ancient Kemet, quote-unquote, Egypt. Origin of the term Afuraka, Afuraikait, Africa in Kemet. Etymology and cosmology of religion and spirit in Kemet. Ankh and Kara, the origin of the terms yoga and chakra in Kemet. Afurakani, Afuraikaitnit, African Black origin of civilization. Divine order in Afurakani, Afuraikaitnit, African cosmology. Ritual in Afurakani, Afuraikaitnit, African ancestral religion. Nature of the soul as divine consciousness in Akan cosmology. More means dead. Male-female complementary balance in ancestral religion. Ancestresses, ancestors, goddesses, gods, biology, geology. Racial exclusivity in ancestral religion. Spirigenetic inheritance. Divine prohibition against dissexuality, homosexuality in Kemet. Black nation building, restoration, rooted in ancestral religion, and more. This anthology was curated to function as a volume that will positively transform the mind of any Afurakani, Afuraikaitnit, African Black individual, youth, or adult who receives it. We examine every facet of Afurakani, Afuraikaitnit, African identity, empowering readers to transform their minds and thus transform their condition wherever they exist in the world. Special 30% discount for our subscribers and followers. See our website to order now. Yerase.